playing Sega Genesis with bros. Now I'm gaming with some folks on the other side the globe. Used to go through a label if you trying to blow. Now people got more.
Y'all thought I forgot, didn't you? Impact Wrestling Rebellion. This thing is 4 days late. I apologize, but I watched it in intervals. I watched it like 2 matches at a time and finally managed to make it through. So the show aired April 16th, 2023. And since there are some people who are genuinely interested in Impact, I'm going to do this for them. This is a personal gift from me to you. I actually watched the show and I'm going to do a review of it. So Impact had a nice little bump in their ratings recently because Detroit Red Wing Darren McCarty wrestled on the product. He worked a 6-man tag on the show, which was interesting. I don't remember what happened because it was so long ago, but it happened and got a nice little bump for it. This show, the draw of this show, is that both world champions, both Mickie James and Josh Alexander, were out injured. Mickie James put her hat down in the ring because she was not going to be medically cleared to wrestle at Rebellion. And so it was a singles match between Jordan Grace, who looks more like Michael Jordan than Jordan Grace from 2 years ago, and Deonna Purrazzo. And while the men are going to have Steve Macklin versus Kushida. Again, neither one of these are really quality main events, but this is Impact, so this is what we're stuck with. So the pre-show, they had the Coven, who is Kylan King and Taylor Wilde, defeat the Death Dolls, which is Jessica and Rosemary. Nothing special comes out of this. The Knockouts tag team titles continue to populate the B show. Kylan King is good, though. I like her. She reminds me a lot of Bayley for some reason. I don't know why she does. She just does. All right. So match 1. Motor City Machine Guns are defeated by Bullet Club in an Ultimate X Tag Team Championship match. Solid match. I'm never really been a big fan of the Ultimate X idea, where, the ring is turned into a jungle gym. But, I'm not angry that, Impact wants to lean into its own little trademark matches. It was solid. So I can't complain too much. Chris Bay and Ace Austin, all right. I don't understand why they're still Bullet Club or why they want them to be in Bullet Club. I don't know why. I don't understand why they want to be Bullet Club. Let's move on. Joe Hendry and Dirty Dango and Santino Marella, who actually wrestled, they defeat the Design. The Design is Khan, Sami Callihan, and Diener. Sami Callihan finally turned on the Design, leading to Joe Hendry's team winning. And my only notes on this is it over now? The Warthog, Sami Callihan, shows his true colors and turns on the Design. Got a pretty big fan reaction. People have been waiting on this. I am not interested in Sami Callihan versus Diener or Sami Callihan versus Khan or any mixture therein. I just don't care about Sami Callihan. I didn't care about this match at all. I think I fast forwarded through this, as a matter of fact. The third match was another match I really didn't want to see. Eddie Edwards versus PCO in a casket match. It was called a Last Rites match. These two have been feuding since the days of Honor No More, and I don't want to watch this no more. So I hope this is over. Recently, Alicia Edwards turned heel to join Eddie. Not like I care about her, because she still can't talk. She still can't do anything. And Eddie Edwards is still, his shoes have to be leaning at this point. Has nobody noticed the enormous weight gain of Eddie Edwards? It's ridiculous. I don't know what's going on with this guy. PCO routinely is 60 some odd years old, taking crazy bumps. This guy has to be on cocaine or Novocaine or something for his body to be able to take what it takes at this age. This dude's got to be a superhuman. As they say, PCO is not human. The fourth match, actually a good match, Trey Miguel versus Jonathan Gresham versus Mike Bailey. This match came about because Jonathan Gresham and Mike Bailey were trying to complete their trilogy, and the winner was supposed to get an X Division title match. Trey Miguel interfered and beat both of them up. This match ended up being elimination, which surprised the hell out of me, and Jonathan Gresham was the first person eliminated. This led to Trey and Mike for a little bit. I don't like Speedball Mike Bailey. He's super boring. Trey Miguel wins. Pretty good match. Not a lot to write home about, but at least Trey Miguel won. So it was a positive. The fifth match on the show, Team Tommy Dreamer versus Team Bully Ray in a hardcore war, which is a elimination chamber style match without the chamber. So Team Dreamer is Yuya Urimura, Frankie Kazarian, sexy ass Killer Kelly. My God, let me tell you something about Killer Kelly. You know, like the old rap song says, she do something to me. I watched Killer Kelly. She was in NXT UK. She just had like braids or whatever. She looked like she was doing an MMA inspired gimmick or something like that. It was ill defined and it wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't very good. But since she came to Impact and sort of blossomed and has started using like sex appeal in her gimmick, like it's like a sadist part of her gimmick where she just kind of does everything sensually. I've been intrigued, bro. When she was in Bloodsport, she recently worked the most recent Bloodsport event against Marina Shafir. Marina Shafir, you don't know me. You don't know me. For some reason, Josh Barnett thinks that Marina Shafir is the shit because she is a former MMA fighter. Fuck her. She's boring. Okay? She fucking sucks. I don't care if she can grapple. She sucks. But Bloodsport is, you know, for grappling. So you got to be a graps guy to actually be into Bloodsport, which I am. But she had a match with Killer Kelly. Man, Killer Kelly was sexy. I was so distracted by her sexiness. It's crazy. And it was similar here, where she's sexy enough to be distracting. And it's not that she's super hot, like she got great big tits or anything like that. It's just a way of her carrying herself that is very sexy. Like how she uses her facial expressions and stuff like that is very, very sexy. And she's also pretty tough too. Like her and Masha Slamovich got into a pretty big fight scene in here and it looked legit. It looked like two people fighting and it looked intense. And it was probably the most intense fighting outside of, well, in this match, it most certainly was the most intense fighting. But the fifth member of Tommy Dreamer's team was Bhupinder Gujar, he needs to be shot into the fucking sun. He sucks. Team Bully Ray consists of Moose, Kenny King, and Kurt Hawkins, and Masha Slamovich. Kurt Hawkins, I can't remember what his fucking name is. What is his name? Myron? No, Myron. Hey, Myron is. It's Brian. Brian something. Brian Hawkins, whatever. Who cares? This match became famous for Bully Ray and the referees. So there's a spot in which Bully Ray is going to jump off the ladder through the table onto Tommy Dreamer. Bully demands that the referees hold the ladder for him. They refuse. He starts bullying the referees. Then the 4 referees jump Bully Ray. It's so stupid. It's ridiculous. 4 referees jumped him, punched him to the ground. This leads to Tommy Dreamer doing a Jimmy Snuka splash off the ladder through the table to pin Bully Ray. It was a fun ending, but I didn't like all the referee stuff. To me, it just felt like it was a little too tongue-in-cheek. Bully was being a little too cute with the referees and stuff. I would have liked to see more of Killer Kelly and Masha Slamovich. I know they're supposed to have a match on Impact. I'll probably watch that because I have a thing for Killer Kelly now, and Masha Slamovich is pretty good. She's a good wrestler. But Bully Ray's team was put together like we're going to lose, so it doesn't really matter. And I hate the fact that Tommy Dreamer, his team ended up being with Yuya Urimura, who nobody would pick out of a lineup, and fucking Bhupinder Gujar, who, like I said, should be shot into the sun. All right, the 6th match was the Impact World Title match, Kushida versus Steve Macklin, in a match that was so obvious that if you have, any electrons functioning in your brain, you knew Kushida wasn't going to win this match. So that's why it went on 6th. So Nick Aldis made his appearance right here at this part of the show. He announced while he was on commentary that he has signed officially with Impact, and he's chasing after the world title on day 1. He did commentary for this match. And let me tell you something. Nick Aldis in Impact is a win for Impact. It is Nick Aldis is what Impact needs. There was something that Nick Aldis added to NWA where it's not necessarily in ring. It's not necessarily promo. It is the way he carries himself. It is culture. It is his way of viewing the business, where he made NWA respectable again. He brought it back to prominence. He made it interesting. He knew how to appeal to sort of the lapsed fan, and he had enough in him to actually make what he did. Even if you didn't like the rest of the show, you liked what he was doing. And if he can bring that sort of intrigue, because he's a very good heel and a very good babyface, because he's a decent to good promo, if he can bring that to Impact, he's infinitely better than Josh Alexander. I'm talking 132% better. You know, Josh Alexander fucking sucks, okay, as a world champion. He is simply Graps dude. Let him go do Bloodsport. We don't need that. Nick Aldis is what you need. Now, I have seen, and this is true, that Nick Aldis probably took an L by signing to Impact, and it was probably the only place that wanted him. Because people feel like he may have burned some bridges, specifically in WWE, where I think that's where he wanted to go. And there was a pretty good chance that he might have got picked up there, but apparently he has some old lingering heat with Bruce Pritchard. And he mentioned it recently that, you know, that might be one of the reasons why he doesn't get picked up by WWE. And I was hoping that he might, because I do like Nick Aldis. I think he carries himself in a good way. That's a good representative for a company. And that's why I think that for Impact, this is a win. For Nick Aldis, this is kind of a settlement. This is like, you know, when the girl settles with the guy, you know, for him, she's a catch. For her, she's kind of like, well, he's stable. You know, like, so that's kind of how it is, you know. Nick Aldis is a good catch for Impact. For Nick Aldis, Impact is stable, you know. You're not gonna run out with Impact disappearing on you. It ain't gonna just start firing people for no reason. You know, it's more of a stable company than it used to be. So he probably is gonna be able to juice this company a little bit and actually change the culture of it and make it a little bit more palatable for lapsed fans and stuff like that. So the match is an afterthought, to be quite honest. Steve Maclin wins, which is not necessarily a good thing because Steve Maclin is kind of boring. I liked him when he was sort of a ripoff of the Punisher, where he was sitting around drinking Jack Daniels and, you know, in a dark room by himself trying to figure out life. That was fun. After he just became yelling military guy, I was kind of like, oh no, what is this? Where is this going? He's still just okay, but I see him as more of a mid-card champion rather than the world champion. But that's just generally Impact, period. You know, that none of these guys feel like top guys. It's just a perception problem. And it's hard to get people to change it. But I don't see anybody on Impact really as being a top guy that can carry your company into the future. I just don't see any of them like that. So Kushida basically worked the one story Kushida almost always works, which is, you know, the hoverboard lock. He submitted Steve Maclin with the hoverboard lock before, so he just kept going after it this time. And one time he ended up going for it, and Maclin countered it into his finish, and he wins. Big fucking deal. After the match, we actually get something that was very interesting. Maclin has been getting into arguments with Scott D'Amore. Scott D'Amore, who is, you know, working very hard to make Impact unwatchable. He comes to the ring. Maclin demands that Scott D'Amore hand him the world title as he promised. And Scott D'Amore did make that promise when they got into an argument on an episode of TV where Scott D'Amore was blatantly being biased and said that he hopes Kushida defeats him. Said that if Maclin wins, he would hand him the title. So Maclin demanded that Scott D'Amore be a man of his word and hand him the title. So Scott D'Amore tries to do that, but Macklin wouldn't take it, says he wants him to put it around his waist. D'Amore refused. Macklin snatched the belt from him. And then when Scott D'Amore turned his back, Macklin blasted him in the head with the title from behind. Like he was going to hit him and all that kind of stuff before Nick Aldis, of course, slid in the ring and backed him down. So we're going with Scott D'Amore is going to be in the middle of this thing, but we're going with Nick Aldis and Steve Macklin immediately. I wouldn't go there immediately. I would, take our time, but this is the right move. Getting Nick Aldis in the mix immediately, best for Impact. Matter of fact, hopefully he's going to be there for the long haul, and you can take your time, kind of like what he did with the NWA. It would be great to do like some 10 pounds of gold style vignettes and stuff like that with Impact. That would do fantastic for their social media. And that's some of the stuff that really got people interested in NWA was the 10 pounds of gold series. And Impact has a pretty good history where, it has all the TNA history and all the NWA world title history, all that kind of stuff. Now, I'm pretty sure they're not going to use all of that. They'll probably just use the TNA stuff. And you can make some pretty good vignettes, especially for Nick Aldis, for people who may not remember that he was there, because he ain't been there in a long time. You could build some stuff there. You could really do some good sit-down interviews, some in-depth stuff. And Nick Aldis can do some really good, like, standing monologues. So I'm really looking forward to what he does to try to make the show interesting. Steve Macklin, I look at him just kind of like I don't know. Like, I don't hate him, but I don't, he's just another graying mid-carder. like Keith Lee and a lot of these guys are just miraculously going gray in their mid-30s. It's like, what the fuck? Like, at least he was in the military. That was his excuse. But Macklin wins. Okay. This kind of gave away the Knockouts women's title match. Because I was like, what would be perfect? Nick Aldis and Mickie James, husband and wife, chasing husband and wife, Deonna Purrazzo and Steve Macklin. And that's exactly what they did. So Deonna Purrazzo defeated Jordynne Grace in a very solid match because Deonna Purrazzo was pretty good. And they usually have good matches together. So Deonna Purrazzo is the women's world champion. Her husband, Steve Macklin, is the men's world champion. And Mickie James will definitely be back after her injury. And her husband is Nick Aldis. And so now you have this perfect thing set up between the husbands and the wives. And this ought to be very interesting. Like I said, Jordynne Grace is looking more like Michael Jordan than Jordynne Grace is. Even if she looked 2 years ago, has become a complete Ninja Turtle. I'm just talking completely like Cowabunga with the mutant voice and everything. It's very weird. So it was a solid show. The Ultimate X match, the Triple Threat match, the women's main event, those matches were all very solid. The Hardcore War, it was kind of violent, with some people were bleeding, but it wasn't like a hell of a lot of blood. It wasn't bloody murder, death, or anything like that. It was just kind of an interesting fight. That's about it, though. Most of the show was skippable. So probably the only thing, if you were somebody who was kind of like, why are we talking about this show? It would only be because of Nick Aldis. And he's not that important that we need to spend so much time talking about him. But I do Impact reviews when they do pay-per-view events. And this is a pay-per-view event. So it slipped down the scale of importance. But it made it. It eventually got done. So, I actually did watch it. So, here it is. Thank you all for your time. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.